So you mentioned, of course, the hunter-gatherer societies, which are hugely independent. I think a common day or current day example would be North Korea. North Korea is also quite independent, and of course, we know about the destitution over there. But what I like quite a bit about your book, having read, and I mean, having admitted this in previous podcasts as well, I'm a huge admirer of Hayek and by extension, Adam Smith as well. So when you talk about the price mechanism, I get excited because it says to me that we're on the same page. There's a very interesting book that I'm reading at the moment by Thomas Sowell that's known as Knowledge and Decisions. And there is a very interesting passage that I flagged because I foresaw that you would talk about the price mechanism. And I just quickly want to read that excerpt before we get into the contents of the book, if you, of course, won't mind. And before I hand over to Seymour for his questions. This is from Sowell's chapter known as The Role of Knowledge. How does an ignorant world perform intricate functions requiring enormous knowledge? The intricate functions include not only such scientific feats as air travel and space exploration, but also the complex economic processes that bring a slice of bread and a piece of butter to your plate at breakfast. Anyone who has studied the actual process by which these food items are planned, produced, and distributed knows that the complexity staggers the mind. Many highly intelligent and highly trained people spend a lifetime studying it and learning more all the time. Among those who speculate financially in such commodities, economic disaster is commonplace, even after they have spent years studying the market. In short, individually we know so pathetically little, and yet socially we use a range of complexity and knowledge which would confound a computer. The question is not only how given institutions, including whole societies, manage to do this, but how various institutions and societies differ in the manner and effectiveness with which they do it, and what to do the historic and continuing changes in the way they perform or function to portend for the future, which really, for me, I think encapsulates what Hayek wrote about in The Use of Knowledge in Society, that wonderful essay of his, but also I think what you espouse in the book about collaboration and how interconnected we are as a globe, and that the only way we're able to produce anything approximating the kind of wealth that sustains us is through this, interconnected web of collaboration that Sowell and of course you write so eloquently about in your book.
And I think the strange thing for me is often is how little we think about this. And so my students would often, I would say, well, why would we want to be a country that's kind of independent from the global system, right? This is quite an appealing thought for many, is to say South Africa should produce its own food, it should produce its own clothes. And my question is always, why, right? And when I make that point, I say to them, well, you are sitting at a university, and the purpose of, I imagine that you're here is to, obtain an education, to specialize, you study, financial planning, you study law, and you become so specialized that you obviously, the more specialized you are, the higher your salary, right? And it means that you're only going to do that one thing, which means that everything else that you need, you're going to buy, right? So you are not going independent. If you were to go independent, you would go and live in the Karoo, you would have your own solar panels, and you wouldn't make those solar panels yourself, you would still buy that, but you would go off the grid and live an independent life. But that would ultimately be a very kind of impoverished life if you have to produce everything yourself, your own clothes, all of these kind of things. Yet you want that for South Africa, right? You want it at the country level, but you don't believe it, or you don't certainly do it yourself. And it's that disconnect that sometimes frustrates me, because we the way we behave, the way we operate is completely counter to what we think we believe about the world, that we should be somehow independent or autarkic, or, and just produce our own things. And so that's really something that I hope the book will bring to light, is the fact that the way we kind of do things are often very different from what we at least communicate that we think is important.